Hey, Harry.
Hey, Joseph, how's it going?
I'm good. What's going on with you?
Nothing much. What about yourself?
I've been busy with schoolwork.
What kind?
I've been learning about the Cold War.
The Cold War. Is that when you fight a cold?
It is called the Cold War because both the US and the USSR were afraid of fighting each other and using weapons of mass destruction.
Oh, that sounds scary.
Yes, it is scary. What do you know about the Cold War?
Nothing?
Okay. Want to learn about the three events in the Cold War that have shaped Canada and continue to have an impact on the country today?
Perfect. I love learning about Canada. They have good beer. What are the three events?
The three topics are the establishment of NATO, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the Canada US relationship.
Okay, sounds interesting. NATO?
The first thing I'll talk about is the establishment of NATO. In 1949, Canada and the US were instrumental in the creation of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO for short. Was formed to ensure security of its European member countries from the Soviet Union.
So is NATO just a country club?
No, Harry, it's a national organization.
Oh, so how did it influence Canada?
NATO's influence shaped Canada's defense policies and led to an increased defense spending and military cooperation with its allies. Even today, Canada's continued participation in NATO contributes to its role in global security and international relations.
NATO sounds like a really good organization. How was it established?
Well, the first public thinking of Canada participating in NATO came from E. Scott Reed at the Couching Conference on August 13th, 1947. Reed worked at the Department of External Affairs. Other Canadians, including External Affairs Minister Louis Saint Laurent, picked up the idea. Secret talks between the British, Americans, and Canadians followed. These led to formal negotiations for a broader alliance in late 1948. By that time, Louis Saint Laurent was Prime Minister.
So what happened next?
Canada's representative at the negotiations in NATO was Hume Wrong. Wrong was ambassador to the US. He believed any treaty should be for defense alone. This view was popular among other participants in the meeting. This idea was promoted by Reed, and Canada's new foreign minister, Lester Pearson, was included in this treaty, but little came of it in the agreement.
Okay, so what happened next? Did they sign it or did talks fall off?
What happened next was that the treaty was signed April 4th, 1949. It included 12 nations: Canada, United States, Iceland, Britain, France, Norway, Denmark, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Portugal, and Italy. The core of NATO's treaty was a collective security. Provision of Article 5 of NATO states an armed attack against one or more of them in Europe or North America shall be considered an attack against them all. This article shows that if anything happens to any of the 12 nations in NATO, all 12 would attack you. Therefore, the establishment of NATO helped shape Canada's military policies today.
Wow, that's interesting. I never realized how important NATO was.
NATO is important.
So what's next?
Next important event from the time period 1945 to 1982 was the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Oh, this sounds interesting. I never heard cigars referred to as missiles.
Harry, no, it's not about cigars.
What? Is it about really missiles? Did they attack Canada?
Harry, no. Missiles were launched during the no missiles were launched during the crisis.
What? Please explain.
Well, before I tell you that, if missiles were launched, they would have been atomic bombs.
Oh, okay, go on, please.
The Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 is a pivotal moment in the Cold War. Tensions between the US and the Soviet Union. People believe we were at a brink of nuclear war.
Tell me more.
An American U-2 spy plane secretly photographed the nuclear missile sites being built by the Soviet Union on the island of Cuba. President Kennedy did not want the Soviet Union and Cuba to know that they have discovered the missiles.
Why?
Well, what happened after, Harry, was the President Kennedy had secret meetings deciding what they wanted to do with this information. Kennedy decided to place a naval blockade around Cuba called quarantine.
Wait, so President Kennedy handled it like a virus?
What?
He made sure people with disease didn't affect anyone else.
No, Harry, not that type of quarantine.
Then what is it then?
Quarantine's aim was to prevent the Soviets from bringing in any more military supplies. JFK sent a letter to Khrushchev declaring that he would not permit offensive weapons to be delivered to Cuba. Kennedy also demanded that the Soviets dismantle the military bases in Cuba and remove all the missiles.
Okay, any response?
Khrushchev responded to JFK's message with a statement that the U.S. blockade was an act of aggression and that the Soviet ships bound for Cuba would be ordered to proceed.
Wow, so the U.S. blocked it?
Yeah, after some arguing and almost nuclear war, Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev removed the Cuban missiles in exchange for the U.S. promising not to invade Cuba. JFK also agreed to remove his missiles from Turkey.
Okay, but how was Canada involved?
During this crisis, Canada played a crucial role as a mediator between the two countries. Canadian Prime Minister John Diefenbaker urged diplomacy and provided a channel of communication between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. Canada's involvement in diffusing the crisis highlighted its role as a neutral and diplomatic actor on the world stage. Canada's help in mediating might have saved a full nuclear war. It helped establish Canada as a country that can help in diplomacy and is another event that helped shape Canada.
You learned some cool things at school. Maybe I should have paid more attention when I went to school.
Maybe you should have.
Okay, what's the third event?
Well, the final event is about the relationship between the United States and Canada. Throughout the Cold War, the relationship between Canada and the U.S. improved significantly.
How?
Canada's close geographic proximity to the United States, the shared border, and economic ties contributed to a close partnership between the two countries. During the Cold War, Canada's close alliance with the U.S. shaped its defense strategies, trade policies, and cultural exchanges.
So the U.S. and Canada were best friends?
The United States became Canada's largest trading partner, and the two countries developed an integrated defense systems, such as NORAD.
NORAD?
It is a binational organization called the North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD for short. It was established on May 12, 1958, as a result of the NORAD agreement between the United States and Canada.
That was a long time ago.
The Canada-U.S. relationship continues to this day to be a defining aspect of Canada's foreign policy, economy, and cultural exchanges. It influences various aspects of Canadian society, including trade, security, immigration, and cultural cooperation. Therefore, this relationship that started during the Cold War helped shape Canada's closest partner in proximity for trade and for other aspects that helped Canada be where it is today.
What does NORAD do? Did they just agree to defend themselves like NATO?
Great question. NORAD operates 24/7. The main responsibilities in NORAD include aerospace warning, monitors the airspace over North America. It detects and tracks any unauthorized or potentially threatening objects over North American airspace. Aerospace control ensures the safety and security of commercial and private aircraft over our airspace. Maritime warning also provides maritime warning, which involves detecting and tracking any vessels in our maritime waters. Continuity of government, ensuring the continuity in the event of a major crisis or attack. They have plans and procedures in place for both the United States and Canada to handle any crisis.
Wow, that makes me feel safe. Anything else?
Yes, it does protect us. Therefore, these three events in the Cold War, NATO establishment, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the Canada-U.S. relationship have shaped Canada. They have shaped Canada's defense policies, highlighted its role as a diplomatic mediator, and reinforced its close ties with the United States. These events continue to this day to influence Canada's position in global affairs, its approach to security, and its relationships with the United States and other nations.
Wow, Joseph, thank you so much. I'm going to tell Carl and Lenny about this at Moe's Tavern tonight.
No problem, Harry. Anytime.
How did you know all this information? Is it from your brain?
I had to research this for school. I found some good websites to get the information from.
Oh, can I have them so I can learn more?
Sure, let me just get them on the screen. One second. There, I put them on the screen. For this discussion, I didn't use all the links on the screen, but thought they may be of interest.
Okay, great. Thanks for the links. I'm going to learn so much.
No problem, Harry. Until next time.